This is Joe P for IFL TV. We're here at the press conference for Gavin Gwynne versus MARSILI. Yeah, MARSILI. Dev, right? You do so much, but you can't speak Italian.
I know they stuck MARSILI up there without an Italian translator, so he just said what was on his mind, and then I was like waiting for someone to translate it, but nobody did. So I'm sure he's up for it. He looks up for it. You know, he's the guy's an enigma. I can't believe he's been a pro for 20 years. Nobody's beat him, and here he is, 47 years old, coming over to the UK. Last time he came over to the UK, he knocked out Derry Matthews, by the way. I'd imagine, I couldn't translate it, but I'd imagine he said he's probably going to knock out Gavin Gwynne, so we'll find out.
Massive size difference up there.
Yeah, huge. He's had that his whole career at lightweight. He's been looking up to people. But Gavin Gwynne's huge, by the way. He's like a 6 foot lightweight. He's really a welterweight who's boiling down. Massive size difference. But look, I think MARSILI's going to be dangerous in there. He's still, they say the last thing to leave a fighter is his power, right? And he's got a big backhand. You could just watch some of his highlight clips or watch his film, which I actually watched on Amazon Prime. He's got a film about him. So just to get into the mind of MARSILI. That was all Italian, but English subs. Could have done with that today.
Modes of the term were up there today. It's no secret he absolutely hates doing media, as you find out. I found out. But thankfully, it speaks for himself in the ring, and look forward to seeing him out on Friday night.
Yeah, look, he's. I think the world is watching when Moses ITAUMA fights. Very curious to see if he can go all the way and how quickly he can go there. Obviously, when he turned over as a professional, a lot of fanfare. He was unbeaten as an amateur, world amateur champion. Said he's going to become the youngest ever world heavyweight champion. So that gets attention. That gets people thinking, okay, let me go and see this guy. And he's looked brilliant so far in his career. The last fight, first round knockout, had the fella over with a jab on a massive stage. So he's completely unflappable, unflustered, and so far unbeaten. I'm expecting a good performance from Moses. So it's very exciting to have someone like that in the Queensberry stable, and just for British boxing, I think he's a real talent.
Before we talk about Sam Noakes, talk about Mark Chamberlain. Last week, didn't get a chance to speak to you after that fight. How do you think he done against Ramlavs? Did come through a lot of adversity, as I'm sure himself will admit.
Yeah, I thought it was a thrilling fight, and ultimately it ended as Mark Chamberlain would have wanted, with a knockout win. Him going away with his belt, having knocked his opponent out. If you'd have told him at the start of the fight that was what was going to happen, he'd have taken it. It just so happened he had to go through it a little bit, and Ramlavs. But by the way, Ramlavs is no mug. As an amateur, he boxed Josh Taylor, Joe Cordina, David Oliver Joyce, plenty of good opposition. So. It gave Archie Sharp a good fight as well as a pro. So he was never just going to be a rollover job, and I think it was a good learning fight for Mark Chamberlain, and it's whet my appetite even more for his fight with Sam Noakes, which hopefully Sam Noakes comes through Carlos Perez. We've got a big fight there. And just on that, by the way, Mark Chamberlain's managed by Frank Warren. Sam Noakes is managed by Francis Warren. This is Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon shit. This is big.
Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon.
Come on.
I did see that on your Twitter, to be honest.
Put a little tweet out. But yeah, it's like, has that ever happened, honestly, in the history of boxing, where you've got someone managed by the father and someone managed by the son? Imagine that press conference. You've got Frank up there going against Francis, and they're like, it'd be great fun.
They are both promoted by Frank Warren, though, so Frank wins, really.
Just another layer of intrigue.
Another layer to this onion that ever growing. And another layer is Gavin Gwynne, because if he gets the European title, then potentially vacates, and then that opens the British for them to have that big test up next year.
Hey, that may be something that could happen. You know, it will be up to Gavin Gwynne. Let's see if he can come through MARSILI. As you mentioned, the size difference is huge there, and Gavin Gwynne right now is really in his pomp. He's ready to go. He's feeling good. He's a home fighter. He's got this wonderful deal with Queensberry, with TNT Sport. He feels loved. He feels backed. He feels good. So if he walks away with that EBU European lightweight title, it's a big moment for him. Because at one point, he probably didn't think he was going to win a British title. I was reading something about that. And life is very good for Gavin Gwynne right now. And hopefully get a good performance on his TNT debut on Friday.
Moving on to Raven Chapman against Sedlakova. I spoke to her before the press conference. There isn't really many fighters she can go in terms of levels after this until it's the likes of the Sky Nicholsons, the Amanda Serranos, and the really top echelons of that division.
Yeah, look, I think it is that. And look, everyone wants the Amanda Serrano fight. Raven Chapman's been hunting down that fight for a little while since they boxed on the same show, on the Joyce Parker show. They went for a Nando's, and Amanda sort of had her on a bit of a promise, but you never know what's going to happen there. Amanda Serrano might end up fighting Katie Taylor, and then what's she going to do with her featherweight belts? She can't just keep hold of them forever. So maybe there's a situation where she doesn't have that WBC belt anymore, and maybe Raven Chapman and someone like Sky Nicholson have got to have a fight. That would be quite something, and I don't think Raven Chapman looks at Sky Nicholson as like levels above or anything like that. I would imagine Raven Chapman fancies that fight big time, and that'd be a great fight. Raven Chapman, Sky Nicholson, I'm here for it.
Royston Barney-Smith, he's last to fight before he moves to titles next year. You mentioned up there his last fight as a teenager. I think Frank signed him before he'd even turned 18. Shows a real lot of promise, and hopefully see another signs of that development on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, where has the time gone? I remember there was a press conference where he was sort of part of it. He did a few interviews at the end. He was 17 years old. We were talking about the future and everything he wants to achieve, and it's going very, very well for him so far. I think he's a super talent. He's like a freakishly good talent and very awkward to fight. He's got that star quality as well. He's in a great camp. We were talking about how in his camp now there's the likes of Alois Jr., Lee Wood, who he does sparring with. Anthony Joshua's now joined that camp as well, giving him advice. This is great. He's in a great spot right now, and it feels like he could be heading all the way to the top titles next year. Let's see if we can get this fella out of the way on Friday.
Just finally, just got news on my phone as you was hosting press conferences, trying to talk Italian and talking about fighters' mums. That the British Boxing Board of Control have rejected an application for Conor Benn to take on Chris EUBANK Jr. on the 2nd of February, I want to say. Yeah, just get your reaction to that.
Fascinating. The whole story is absolutely fascinating. I'll be watching keenly, I'm sure everyone will, to see how this unfolds. It could sort of set a precedent. It could be a bit of a watershed moment. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I will be watching keenly.
Do you think there's any possibility that fight could end up on a Saudi card?
I don't know. I mean, I think their whole intention is to put it on in the UK, but I've no idea.
Do you want to see that fight though?
Yeah. I'm ready to go for that fight. I've wanted to see it more in the past. I wanted to see it more when they first had that press conference, where they had that face-off and they were chatting to each other and all of that. I wanted to see it a lot there. Then the controversy probably made it a bigger fight, but nah, it does feel like it might have just gone past. But I just want them to get it out of the way now. Crack on. It's interesting because it's now at middleweight, right? I don't know if there's any rehydration clauses or anything like that, but it's definitely a fight that you'd watch. Like, why not?
Now you've kind of been part of a press conference with Eddie Hearn. Do you think he'll stick you on the guest list for that fight, maybe?
I don't see why not.
Have you ever paid for a matchroom ticket?
No, I've never been to a matchroom show. But I don't really go to boxing unless I'm there and working. I wouldn't go really. I quite like watching it on the telly. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being to IFL TV. Just last thing, sell us this card Friday night.
Mate, we're back-to-back weeks at the spiritual home of British boxing. 2 lightweights in co-main event status. Emiliano Marsili is an enigma. He is 47 years old. He's been a pro since 2003. Nobody has ever beaten him. GWYNNE is about half a foot taller than him, and he genuinely believes that he will be beating him. I mean, you'd give him a good chance, right? He's a big favourite in there. And if GWYNNE wins, he becomes the European champion. What about Sam Noakes? What about 11 fights, 11 wins, 11 knockouts? He thinks he can go 12 fights, 12 wins, 12 knockouts on Friday. 100% knockout rate is mental in the lightweight division. And look, Carlos Perez, as Sam Noakes' mother has said, that I pointed out there, thinks that Carlos Perez is a handsome chap. And Sam Noakes has said he won't be so handsome on Friday. Let's see. I can't wait for it.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers.